accept the minutes of 3/19. Any comments, questions, corrections? Did I do it right?
Look good to me, Jim.
Good. All right. Entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any other comments, questions? If not, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain since I was only here for part.
Okay. Any, seven yes and one abstention, okay? Two abstentions, 6 yes, 2 abstentions. All right. At our last meeting, we talked with Greg about, what can we do, our 19 million and so on and so forth. The Boxborough bids came in on 28th or 27th of March. They were close to $3 million under the estimate. They came in, contractors are hungry. They got at least 2 bids that were considerably under the estimate. I'm not sure about all of them, but those are the ones that Greg particularly said to me, yes.
How much was the whole total estimate?
Their estimate, 19 million, I think, or
Okay.
20
I
million.
thought that was 40 million.
They're very
What's
similar
the
in size to
percentage?
ours.
Right.
Okay. But they have, actually, I take that back. There might have been a little bit more than ours because they have about $2 million in site work because before they could even put the thing on, so I dare not say it was a 20. The comparable building to our facility is about 20 million. Their budget may have been higher than that because of the site work, stuff like that. Anyways, and so before that meeting was what we had on the 19th, and Greg says that probably he suggested if we're going to go for the whole ball of wax that we should put in for 19.65 million. And so we were forward with the selectmen, I think, of that night after this meeting, and they, they're kind of hemming and hawing, and it, kind of.
Mike, I may have to. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Greg,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, because I can't hear you. Can you call me and I'll do it through the phone, or I call you?
Okay. Okay, can you hear us now?
Technology.
Okay, somehow I'm muted. Can you unmute, Greg?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get Greg audio connected. He can't hear us, so I'm just trying to help him out for a second.
Okay.
While we're going through this glitch, who made the motion to accept the minutes?
I made a motion.
I second.
Okay, thank you.
So Mike, can you say something?
Okay.
Yeah, I think Greg can hear us now, correct?
Okay,
Greg?
great. Thank you.
Can you
That
hear-
solved the problem.
Can you hear us?
I think I'm good now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jim, yes.
Good, perfect, okay. So anyways, so the select board seemed a little hesitant, if you would, about the 19.65. There was some concerns about it, especially increasing the tax by somewhere between $600 and $700 for an average house in Hadley. Anyways, so they said, can you take a look at a few things and see if there anything can come out of it and make it a little bit less. I talked to Greg either the next day or the day after, and he says, well, we can do some things. He said, we can try to make your budget, and we could, few of the comments, my book in the car.
And I can pull those up, Jim, when you're ready.
Okay, and so anyways, I asked him to come up with a project. What could we get for $10 million total cost? And he emailed me a few varieties today, anywhere from the full 19.65, a couple that I think they're all. Greg, you can put them up. Put them up.
Sure. I have them, Greg, if you want me to share them.
Okay, well, why don't we start with the comparison chart, Mike, first?
Okay.
So, gentlemen, what I'd like to say, and I think I told you at the last meeting, that the bids for Boxford came in very good.
Yep.
And now, I'm going to say it's a little bit of an outlier in the sense that because there's no other work out there, and I know the contractor that got the low bid was really desperate for work, but I kind of took the average on that, and basically what we have, and Mike, I'm not seeing anything quite yet. Okay, there it is, yes.
All right, now,
So-
just a minute. We can't put this up onto the screen. For whatever reason, I don't have the right connections. So if anybody wants to huddle around and look at this, but if you would, just go over the numbers, okay?
Yes, no, that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
So, but for practical purposes, you're going to see that we have three options there, options 3, 4, and 5. Okay. If we start at the bottom with option 3, option 3 is the what we currently have on the design that you presented to the select board. And that's with, was a $19 million budget. The building was about 23,000 square feet and some change. And with the soft cost and everything, it came in at $22 million. And we had talked about whether that could come down and everything. So that was option 3. So then when you reached out to me, Jim, you asked me, what could we do to try to bring the cost down? And there were items that were absolutely necessary and that were nice to haves. And so basically we looked at it and we said, the office is a must-have. You have no options. You need the area and stuff for that. The repair bay, originally you were asking for 2 repair bays. We were looking at, well, could we get by with 1 repair bay and use the wash bay, which is absolutely required as well for the project. And you said, yes, let's take a look at that. So we did that. And then you said, and no storage. But because you currently have a $500,000 vac truck that's sitting out there with the rear end, hanging outside the barn, I had suggested that we put at least 1 storage bay in there to accommodate that vehicle and maybe a future vehicle if you have a similar configuration like that. And so that's what we did. We looked at that and we came up with another option where we gave you 2 bays. So saying that the existing plan that you currently have, option, or what we call option number 3, is coming in total, all project in, $22 million. Now, Mike, if you move to the next option, which is option 5, okay, what this has, it has the office area, it has the a wash bay, it has 1 vehicle repair bay and 2 storage bays. So you could put a total of 4 trucks in there, but on the big trucks you can only get 1 in there. So you could get either 4 big trucks or, yeah, that's right. 4 big trucks, and you could get like 8 little trucks in there if you wanted to. So that would be a 2-bay configuration. That puts the building at about, what is an option for? That's about 15,000 square feet. And Mike, if you scroll down to the number, all in and everything, it'd be about 15.4 for that project if we were to do it that way. If we remove one of the storage bays, we can get it down to 14. Now understand, I didn't exactly use a fine pen or something to calculate this. You'll notice that the soft costs in the project are pretty consistent between all the projects. And you might see a slight variation, but again, those will be refined. I talked to Neil briefly. He didn't get a chance to really work with me because we were turning this around so quickly. So I just kept his fee and my fee pretty much where it is. I'm anticipating that those can be reviewed and we can see if anything can be reduced off of that. I also took the attitude that we kept everything at $750 a square foot. And that's why you reach those numbers. Now, that is the conservative approach. If all of a sudden I go back to the Boxford numbers, where we're closer to $650, it brings the cost down probably another $1 million or so. Then you'll also notice that the salt shed is running about $1.2 million in all the schemes. That's including a concrete wall 12 feet high with a wood structure on top, 30 feet high so the truck can dump it. We're running the numbers now with Hudson, and we also got the bid price on the same exact salt storage shed we were proposing for you on Boxford. That came in at about $1.2 million, between 1.1 and 1.3, so I picked 1.2 million. However, what we're doing in Hudson to help reduce the cost, they're saying get rid of the concrete walls, use plywood walls, and I use that term loosely, but the wood walls with the kickers, where you can take off probably about another, $200,000 to $300,000 off the cost of the project and bring it in between $900,000 and $1 million for the salt shed. So those are kind of the numbers that we reached. Now, Mike, if you can bring up the first floor plan, which would be option number 5, the full build out. I think you've all seen that, so there should be nothing surprising about that.
This is
About it. Yes, Jim?
That's the full build, that's the full build out.
That's the full build out that we previously spoke about. So it basically has 2 tandem storage bays, the office, 2 vehicle repair garages, 1 wash bay, and then some back storage on the lower end. About 23,300 square feet, and that's the full 22 million. Now, if you go to the next sheet, Mike, please, thank you. This is where you see options 4 and 5. So option 4 has the office in it, 2 tandem storage bays, 1 repair bay, and 1 vehicle storage. 1 wash bay on that. Then if you go to option 5, you have the full office, 1 tandem storage bay, 1 repair bay, and 1 wash bay. Now, again, your crystal ball is about as muddy as my crystal ball. We could put this out tomorrow and we could get great numbers like we did at Oxford. And it could come in, lower than the total package of 15 million that I say, because that's including our soft cost and everything. Or it could hit at the 750 a square foot, So that's kind of where we stand now. I think the best we can do, if I were, being conservative, like if you can put the comparison sheet back up, thank you. So I think the best we could do on this, bringing, the 1 tandem storage bay, the office, the 1 repair bay, the wash bay, and soft cost and everything, I think it would come in between 13 million and 14 million for the entire package. Okay, and you'll see my number is currently the more conservative 14 million. But based on the bids in Boxford, we could see another $1 million come off. And plus, if you would consider going with the wood sides on the salt storage shed rather than the concrete. That would be the bare minimum facility I would build for you if you guys asked me my opinion. You need that 1 tandem storage bay. If for nothing else, you need it for your back truck. If I had my brothers, I would probably say the better compromise would be go to option 4 with the 2 tandem storage bays. It adds about $1 million on the project, but again, it could come down depending on where the bids come in. But that would probably give you the most flexibility over the next 20 years. And I say that because it's highly unlikely that you will be going back to the town anytime soon asking them for another $5 to $10 million to put another addition on the vehicle, on the DPW. Could be wrong, but most towns are not receptive to that. The nice thing about both options 4 and 5 is all we've done is cut off the back end of the building. So, because Jim had asked me, well, can we do anything to accommodate, an addition later on? And the answer is yes. If you chose to, you could come back next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and put that back storage component on there. Now, you'll still be down 1 vehicle repair bay, because you'll only have 1 in the original build out and stuff. But that is what our, current analysis of your cost and your needs and how they mesh. Option 5 is your bare bones, so that's going to be 13 to 14 million all in, soft cost and everything. Option 4 is probably your better option, which will be 14 to 15 million all in with the 2 tandem storage bays. And then, like I said, in the future, you can do an addition. I will now open it up to any question.
Greg, what's the life expectancy of the concrete walls in the salt shed?
It should be 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how bad you beat it up with your backhoes and everything.
Well, the one you've got now has got concrete up to a certain height, and it's almost 40 years.
And it's still decent?
Yeah. Plywood will not.
Right.
There is a lighter.
So, yeah, I just.
Plywood versus a bucket doesn't hold up quite as
Yeah,
well.
well.
We've seen it.
But there's couple, $300,000, I don't think it's worth sacrificing the concrete in the
Yeah, you,
salt shed.
the problem with trying to sacrifice on, what was the height of the total, the better,
150.
no, how high was the concrete? Is that 8 feet, 10
12.
feet?
12-foot walls. 12-foot walls with a wood structure on top, a gambrel wood structure on top, so that you have 30-foot high clear to be able to dump a truck in there.
But how high was the poured concrete wall?
It would be 12 feet above grade.
12 feet, okay. Yeah, so you're gonna save 300 grand, and if you only go up 4 or 5 feet of concrete, that thing's gonna be, not only is the salt gonna destroy it,
You're going to be pulling out.
you're gonna have the, everything,
Pressure.
yeah,
Pushing on it too. Yeah.
you know,
Is there a way to put this new structure closer to the existing building where the gas lane was and keep the existing salt shed?
So we will look at that. We didn't really do the site plan yet, and my initial response would be no, only because you want to position that building so that in the future, you can put that back addition on if you need it. And I don't know if that's going to be 5 years from now or 20 years from now, but the point simply being is, if you ever need to put more vehicle storage bays on there, that is the way to do it. So I would not cripple that site by holding on to that salt shed. That's just my personal opinion. I know you guys operate, and Scott would have a better feel for how he wants to operate that. But you do have a 60-year-old building sitting there now, which you'll be parking some of your trucks in there. That's the existing garage. You'll have this new garage that can pick up anywhere from 4 to 8 spaces if you put the 2 bays in there. You can obviously park vehicles in the wash bay at night when it's not being used. But the question is if you get more equipment, which you do have the equipment, you may need to put an addition on the back of that building at a future date. So the question is, do you want to build around a 60-year-old salt shed and cripple your site? And that's a decision I'll let the town make.
How about the pole barn? Is that staying?
No, that would be torn down.
You can't fit this new, smaller building in and leave the pole barn?
Again, we can work whatever configurations you want, but that pole barn is, of little or no value what I can see, because it's in pretty tough shape.
Well, it's got value as far as keeping equipment out of the snow and rain, but at least to try to get this project funded.
You're not going to get it closer to the building in between. You got the sewer line running out, the effluent line running to the river, and all that stuff right through there.
No, would go toward coals, right?
Yeah, but the salt shed.
No.
You can't put it between.
Yeah, I'm talking about the pole barn.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know how far
space-
back they're going.
That's what I'm asking these guys.
Connection.
So I guess if there was space, David,
Yeah, why wouldn't you leave it?
we could, we don't have to necessarily tear the pole barn down unless we feel like we're getting encroached upon or infringed upon with the construction.
yeah.
So that can be a
I
last
mean, if
minute
you actually
decision.
put the building on the site without tearing any other building down, I can probably get it on the site. The question is it the optimum location for the building? And the answer will probably be no.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're questioning that, Greg. I think, at least I agree with you in terms of putting the building where it's going to be most usable for the future, potential future expansion. But if we put it there where you feel it's the best place, and we don't necessarily have to tear down that pole barn, then, I mean, that can be a last minute decision. Once we see what's what, then we can decide whether we need to take that pole barn down or not.
The pole barn is at least decent overhead, keeping the snow and stuff off of stuff in the winter. Granted, it's not heated or anything enclosed,
Yeah,
but
there's
it
a lot of
does,
stuff besides vehicles in there.
Well, even if it's just plows.
yeah, it keeps stuff out of the weather.
The only other problem is your driveway going to and from where the salt shed's going
Right.
to be moved.
Yeah, so again, if it becomes an issue, then it
Yeah.
can go. But if it doesn't, if it's not an issue, then why not leave it?
Yeah, if we can save that $1 million for the salt shed, and even if you, 5 years down the road, 10 years you get out of that, when that roof starts caving in or leaking, then you gotta do something with it. But
No,
I don't see that a lot of this stuff is gonna, if we're coming up with a big building, it's gonna pass.
Yeah,
So we're talking about keeping the pole barn to
If we can.
keep items out of the weather,
Yes.
right? Because we're hoping to increase their longevity, right? So Greg, again, what was the typical number expected lifespan of equipment when it's not parked in the weather?
You get about a 3-year extended life expectancy out of a piece of equipment, and then obviously all the associated maintenance over the year too. But that's what the best we can find from studies, which was done in Iowa on their DPW truck, it's about a 3-year improved life expectancy on vehicles that are inside.
And how much do we have roughly, Scott, in value inventory in our vehicles? Do you have a number
I
on
don't know
that?
the number on it, millions, you got millions of dollars probably.
Several $1 million.
Yeah.
The latest dump truck alone was extremely pricey.
And Greg, what would that 3 years work out to, like, in a percentage? Are we saying that our equipment typically lasts 5 years, 10 years?
I've seen DPWs run it for 10 to 20 years, pieces of equipment. You know, is that optimal? Scott would know better than I would. If you ask him what his oldest truck is in the inventory and ask him how much maintenance he's putting on that.
Well, outside of the Army donations that are.
So-
A lot of it depends on the piece of equipment. A dump truck will last you longer than like a bucket loader or a backhoe.
Well, let's just say 10 years for the sake of argument, right? So if you're adding 3 years on 10, that's 30% on these millions of dollars.
It's at least 3.
That we're getting out of this equipment. There's a dollar value we can tie to this.
That's a huge dollar value.
And,
Yes.
and if we're looking at chopping $4 million off of this plan versus $3 million, 3 years on, let's say we've got $15 million worth of equipment inventory, right? Is that high? And would that be about right?
I think that's probably high, but.
Okay, $10 million. Say 10 million. So we get 3 million.
300,000, right?
Well, no, 3
million.
3 million
3
on $10 million worth of equipment.
Yeah.
That's just on the initial savings of what we have versus stripping off the $4 million.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of equipment, Andy. I think 3 maybe.
3 to 4, maybe.
3 to 4?
Yeah, but still,
Maybe
that's
five
still money.
tops.
And even so, the pole barn.
Still $1 million.
Putting equipment in the pole barn is putting it in the building. It's not,
Weather, sun and rain and
right,
snow. and
it
ice
doesn't
and
have to
salt.
be heated to get the 3 years.
So my point is that the pole barn, what we're saying is this thing can go anywhere. It could even park over next to that other garage that's gonna be staying on site. It doesn't necessarily need to live, it's gonna leave in a spot that's convenient, but where it is now is not convenient for the future site of the salt shed, right?
What's it you're referring to? The new building?
The pole barn.
Oh.
We're talking about,
I mean, obviously he has to lay it out, but I've been talking about this. I don't see how you can leave it and put the salt shed behind the wastewater plant there against the fence and have room for the trucks to get in and out of there. I don't see that happening. We have enough time sometimes skirting around there with
The only way,
regular trucks.
somebody had talked about skirting down the property line with a driveway down alongside of the tanks and coming around that way, but, depending on how far out it's built, these trailers are, they're pretty long.
Yeah.
And dumping and then trying to swing back and cut it in between the sewer gate and the pole barn, I just don't know. You'd have to, they've got, I'm sure.
That would have to be laid out on a.
Right, you'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
so it sounds like the pole barn still is kind of, as we talked about, a last minute discretionary decision.
Yes.
Whether or not
I think so.
we're gonna keep this thing. Because if we built, we do go with the full program, we've got all the old garage to keep a lot of this ancillary stuff in. Plus that other garage that's over on that we acquired with the house. But it's conceivable if we needed to move that whole structure out of the way we could. Obviously, we don't want to hamstring ourselves by leaving the pole barn in a position where we won't be able to get to the new salt barn.
So,
Just so everybody will know, this Zoom connection is my own personal connection. We got a 40-minute limit on there. So we started a few minutes after, because I couldn't get to the town one because they were using it or something.
okay.
And I don't want to,
More than one.
Well, I
so
think.
we got about 10 more, a good 10 minutes left of talking to Greg and Neil.
Yeah, I think I've heard what I need to hear from them.
Correct.
I don't know what else they can tell us.
Right. I mean, they've
We're
come-
talking numbers, and that's what we need to know. So if they get kicked off, so be it. I think we can deal with it.
Yeah.
So Jim, if I may chime in on it, I appreciate all the conversation about the whole barn and the salt barns and all that other salt shed. We can work that.
Yeah.
I think the question I would ask you, because you went to the selectmen, you all are citizens of the town and stuff. Obviously, the least amount of cost would be the best amount of cost for the project.
Right.
But the question is obviously the 20 million, 19 million was not palatable to the selectmen. Is the $15 million number palatable?
Probably not.
Okay, so there's what I guess it comes down to. I mean, even if you go with the bare minimum, you're still at 14 million. Is that palatable to the town? And again, I'm saying those numbers might come down a little. Let's say they come down another million, but you're still at $13 million on this. So I guess my question is, what's the magic threshold? You can do a 10 million, but then you just get rid of all the vehicle storage, and now you have a vac truck still parked outside, having its issues. So I guess that's something that the committee should really focus on and say, do we take a 14 or $15 million number to the town, let them vote it up or down, or do you just cancel the project and hope for another day?
Okay.
I personally would take one of the numbers to the town. I'd take the 15.5, 15.4 number to the town and say, because then you understand, that has like a $562,000 contingency. We can talk about the salt shed a little more. The numbers might come in. But if that's not even a palatable number, then I don't know what else to say at this point.
Greg, I got a question about the extra stall being $1 million. So we took out that center aisle, said that was like 300,000 savings only. And now if we're doing an extra stall, it's $1 million.
Right, and I understand that the challenge with all of this is there's an economy of scale and everything. Whether the dozer works for 8 hours for the day or works for 6 hours of the day, I'm still paying for the 8-hour day. And again, as I started at the beginning of the conversation, I did not go through and individually price everything, and maybe this number is a little high. Jim and I talked about this earlier in the week or late last week. So what I tried to do is just pull the numbers together the best I could based on the information I have. If you said, well, we want to go with the option 4, let's get another estimate on it. Obviously, I can work with Neil and everything to say, can we get it down? The number may fluctuate $1 million, down. I don't think we're going to be seeing a $5 million drop on anything we do. I will let Neil and Scott chime in. Best I'm saying, these numbers I'm showing, I'm cautiously optimistic they will drop $1 million. Okay? But I don't see it dropping $2 or $3 million unless there's a major recession or something.
Okay.
Greg, I have a question. If we say we go with option 4, so you're looking at 15 versus say 20 or 21, 22,
Right.
$5, $7, $6, $7 million.
19.
What is that going to cost us if in 10 years if we want to come back and complete the rest of that with escalation and stuff like that? What is that addition going to turn that
Probably
saving?
10 million.
That's what
I
I've been
mean,
saying all along.
every DPW that I've worked with, Boxford had the same thing. In 2018, they could have built their DPW for, like 8 million, okay? They just bought their new DPW salt shed and everything for, all in 16 million now, okay? just the reality of it. And if you look, there's a little chart that we created showing you the escalation of cost on DPWs. Pre-pandemic, you were running about $500, $550 a square foot. The pandemic kicked in, and within like a 3-year period, the cost escalated like 60%. You know, and right now it's hovering, you know, like I said, typically around $750. Oxford just happened to be at a great time, and they got it closer to $650. So that's why I'm saying, if you got yours at $650 rather than $7, you know, you take your, you know, 15,000 square feet, 13,000 square feet, you could probably drop $1 million off of it now. But I don't think you're going to see major shifts more than $1 million, maybe $1.5 million on a really good day.
And Greg, the numbers that we're talking about here, when we were looking at revising this program, we took off storage, which is, we've identified as the least expensive square footage
Yes.
of the project. So we're not gaining big, you know, with keeping the vital components in there is still the expensive part.
Right.
Well, we've taken the garage off, and that is the least expensive square footage, and we lose the benefit of the storage.
It's like building a house with no bedrooms.
Yeah, we're the office, wash bay, and mechanics bay are the 3 things that we need the most, because we face some regulatory, we're facing regulatory pressure right now.
Right.
And if we do nothing, we're gonna face big regulatory pressure to do those things for a whole bunch of reasons. So we're trying to get away with, we're trying to give the town something good. Granted, it's nowhere near what we would like, but it's a lot better than what we have. It's a decent piece of the pie. And I guess it's going to be up to us to decide which one do we want to go to bring to the select board. I can bring all 4 to the select board, if you would. You know, I could bring the full boat, the 2 storage bays, the 1 storage bay. We could even cut no storage bays and probably bring it down close to another $1 million, $750,000, whatever it might be. And, you know, granted, none of us like it, but if that's what we get, it's a whole lot better than what we have today.
And Jim, I'd also like to throw out, and I know nobody wants to hear it, and it's not tasteful, but it's never the case. If you can save $300,000 or $400,000 by going with the wood salt shed rather than the concrete salt shed, my position is build the wood salt shed, because most of the towns that I'm dealing with, their wood salt sheds are lasting 20 years or so. So it's not like it, but that's one of those things that if you sacrifice that on the cheap today, it will be a lot less expensive to replace that in the future than it will be to, you know, replace building. So if you said, great, cut off $300,000 to $500,000 today, I'd say do the wood salt shed. Just do it.
How high is
It's
the
not
concrete?
optimal, but that's, I just say it's a sacrificial thing that you can do again later at a much less cost.
Greg, how high is the concrete on the wood salt shed?
It's 1 foot above grade.
That's it?
That's it. And I'm giving you the real numbers that we're literally, because Neil's working with me on Hudson now, and I can show you the bids that came in on Boxford. So these are real numbers. I'm not even estimating this. These are real numbers that are coming in today.
Greg, how much would it be for a salt shed with the blocks and the canvas?
Yeah, I will save you another 100, 200,000, but it's not saving that much compared to what I'm being told by everybody.
Well, how high is the concrete blocks on those? Most ones we
They
looked
usually
at.
go about 6 feet, 8 feet max.
Now, what if we were to put a wood salt shed up with maybe like a 4-foot concrete wall?
That's fine. So here's the bottom line, Jim. Does Scott want to be able to drive a truck in there and dump the truck? It's the height that's killing us, not the size or anything, it's the height. Now, Oxford, salt shed isn't high enough to do that. So they dump the salt in front of the salt shed, somebody drives a loader and pushes all the salt into the shed. That's great as long as it's not raining or snowing or something else. But I don't think Scott wants to be spending an hour or two every time a salt delivery comes in, pushing it with a backhoe, with a loader.
Yeah.
You can dump it now, Scott.
Right now, they can dump
Most of it in.
most of it in, their bodies hit, depending on
Sure.
which tractor they have, if it's the frameless or whatever, they can dump, most of it gets inside there, but you have to push it out of the way before the next load
Yeah,
comes.
yeah.
They're not dumping outside and you're not hauling it in bucket by bucket.
So I know there's soft costs and stuff, but at $650 a square foot, 15,000, that's just at 10 million.
But then you have the soft cost.
Yeah.
And your IT is going to be the same, your equipment, your furniture, that's all going to be the same. And then, like I said, Neil and I will sit down and review our fees and see where they come in. But we just weren't ready to sit, because even if Neil and I cut our fees 10%, it's not a big enough number to move it one way or the other,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Right.
I mean, sure, it's, it's maybe $150,000, but it's not like, wow, we just wiped another million off.
Was that, did your plan include a radiant heat floor?
Yes,
And so the heating plant itself obviously would be sized for a much smaller building.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And that's what I'm saying, all of these numbers may go down a little, but again, we're only talking, so let's say I do a perfect estimate, we have the full design down, and I estimate it, and it comes in at the $13 million price tag rather than the 14. That's great, but if I'm listening to Jim, 13, 14 million still is not palatable to the selectmen.
We don't know that. That's a big unknown. We'll find that out tonight.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is, my feeling anyhow, the board, I believe, understands we have to present something.
Yes.
We, being the select board, has to present something to town meeting because of everything we've talked about through this whole process. So we have to decide what that is, and this committee have to decide what we want the select board to hopefully put on the warrant, and then the townspeople are gonna have to decide if they want to spend the money or not.
Yeah.
And granted, the talk at the last select board meeting was that $10 million sounded a whole lot more palatable than 20, but that still could be too much for most people in town. We don't know what the vote's going to bring us, and my opinion is that we can't just do something for a price point, because we're gonna end up with something that none of us is gonna be happy with. The taxpayers might be happy because their tax bill didn't go up as much as it could have, but now we've got something that's new and works, it accomplishes half of what we wanted it to do. And to me, that doesn't make any sense.
But
So,
what we should be going, what we absolutely need is office space, mechanic bay, the wash bay,
Right.
and a place to put that back truck.
right.
Other than that,
Jim.
it still has the old building to store.
No, I agree with that,
Alright,
David,
maybe
100%. I'm not suggesting we go for the 20. I think that one of the two lesser options that were presented today makes sense. I think we need to decide whether the difference was either one extra bay or not, correct? There was one bay or two bays
Yeah,
in
storage
addition
bays,
to
yeah.
the
Storage
mandatory
bays.
stuff?
Yeah.
Was I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think, my opinion, we need to decide which of those two options to bring forward and go from there.
To me, this sounds a lot like the elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
which was cut back and cut back and cut back, and eventually, there was a lot of programs that weren't able to be run, at least from a town standpoint, in there because of, the small and reduced size. And we wound up going through a lot of expense and gyrations, moving things around and trying to expand, and in the end, we got what we paid for. I'm not an advocate of going out and blowing everybody's money, but as we all know in construction, it's never going to be cheaper than it is today. And so I would rather see us build a 50-year project than build a 10-year project and then have to come back at this again. I mean, they've come back at this since the 80s. every year, we're spending time, money, and effort, coming back to the same conclusion, we should be building this. Well, but the taxpayers aren't gonna wanna do that, so we need to cut it back to that. I'm still an advocate of going for what was the minimum full-service plan, which was the 19 million, that maybe 17 million, and say, this is what it is. If it gets shot down, it gets shot down. It wouldn't be the first time we've had a project go to town meeting and get shot down the first time. But people deserve to know, like we've said before, what a fully functional DPW is gonna run them.
The only problem with that is, when we did the school, the architect remained, the contract was written that the architect remained until project was approved. This time, at this town meeting, these two contractors are done, and we have no more money to hire them. So that if we want to bring it back at fall town meeting, we can't. We have no money, except we can't talk to them. We're going to have to fly by the seat of our pants on this information that they've given us today.
Well, I don't think, if we go with the lesser one, it doesn't pass, we're not gonna go back in town meeting, because nobody's gonna win the lottery and everybody in town.
Yeah.
I mean, we were tasked with finding up the best building we could, because nobody wanted the $30 million. I think we did that. Now, when you guys came down and said, well, for 10 million, we can get this, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's kind of like building a house with no bedrooms, but if we can do that, maybe, you know, and at 10 million, personally, I think most of the people that aren't gonna vote for the 20 aren't gonna vote for the 10, they probably wouldn't vote for it if it was 5, but maybe not. You might get some going each way. You're also gonna get the people who wanted to vote for something good, and are gonna say, I'm not voting for half a garage. That doesn't make sense to me.
Hi, Neil. I don't think so, for the simple reason that you've given us all the information that we really need as far as the multiple prices. And I put you on speakerphone so everybody can hear this. And, you know, I'm not sure what else, speaking about, you know, beating up the prices anymore, because, you know, we've got the multiple prices, and we're trying to decide which one we should encourage the select board to put on the warrant. And, you know, depending what they talk about tonight, because you got the Zoom link, so you can listen to that meeting, and you can certainly put in comments about anything too. I mean, it's not by any means, this is an open meeting.
Right.
So we would appreciate that.
I'm definitely gonna try to listen anyway. I'm not
Okay.
sure I'm gonna add anything to the discussion, because I don't wanna come out as contrarian.
Yeah.
But I will certainly listen to the discussion. I certainly trust you folks that you've got the information that you need and can make an educated decision. I was trying to interject my thoughts right as the meeting cut off, and I just wanted to share my perspective with you.
Welcome. Go ahead.
I think if you look at it, right, based on the funding model, if you look at the incremental cost between a $10 million project and a $14 or $15 million project, I know it's going to look like a lot, but I think you need to look at what you're not going to get at 10 million and how much it would cost to get it. And look at what the incremental cost is and what difference that makes in your financing model. If you look at, you know, for example, if you look at 10 million for 20 years, and then you look at 15 million for 25 years, it might be it may be no difference in cost, or a very slight incremental difference in cost if you play a little bit with the financing model. And that's, I mean, obviously that's way beyond my pay grade, but it's something that I think you might want to consider talking to the town accountant with, just to get an idea of what that difference looks like. And it might help you to guide your decision. And that was what I wanted to share with the committee.
Okay.
In terms of looking at that model. It might make a $15 million pill easier to swallow if you look at it, you know, over 25 years instead of 20 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Just something, just another way to consider it.
Yep.
To help you to, you know, I don't have a vested interest in it one way or the other. Sure, a bigger project means a higher fee for me, but in reality, I want what's best for the community, and if all you can spring is the 10 million, then that's what we'll do, and we'll do it with a smile, and we'll do a good job for you, I promise.
Okay.
But the other way to look at it is what are you giving up? What's the cost of what you're giving up? And then in terms of the impact to your fleet, what's the payback, right? If you have a $3 million fleet at 30%, that's about a $900,000 payback, or a $900,000 hit every X number of years. So over the course of a 25-year job, you might recoup the $5 million for the storage area, as an example, right?
Yes, okay.
Just, just a different way to look at it, but it should get you to the same place. And ultimately, again, I trust you guys, you're gonna do what's right for the community and what's right for the board and what's right for the committee, so.
Okay.
I'll log in tonight. You said it was 6:45 in your original email, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be on tonight, and I wish you guys luck.
Thank you.
We gotta bring something to the board, though.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, guys?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk later.
Yeah,
Take care.
bye-bye.
So if Neil's on the Zoom meeting and there's something that I think he can help us with, I'll certainly ask him to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if Greg will be on it, because I think Greg is actually, I think he said he was at an interview for another project. And I think he's driving back, so he probably will be driving and won't be able to make it.
Well, Greg's pushing a little hard for me right now. He's playing salesman more than anything else at this point. And I understand his position. I don't disagree, but I don't think he's understanding where we're coming from. It's, if it was our decision, we'd do the 20 million and that'd be that. Done deal, but it goes a little bit beyond this room. So, again, we just need to decide, because I don't think we're gonna get much anything for $10 million other than some offices and a
And
wash
like,
bay.
and going back to that, when they came and said, oh, if you can get that, if you could have gotten option 4 for 10 million, I might have said, okay, well, that's a good chunk of savings, it does get us what we need.
Right.
But you're going from, say, 20 to 15, and you're cutting off a lot of stuff.
But we're cutting out a lot of storage area.
Right, a lot of, which
And,
is,
a thing to consider. Okay, down the road, we'd like the storage area. Well, in a couple of years, 5 years, whatever it might be, we need the storage. What's wrong with putting up a plain old storage addition or a storage building? No heat, no nothing, just undercover. 4 walls to the roof. So that's, it would be, who knows what the cost would be, I don't even know where it would fit on site. I'm just making a wide, very broad statement. on that.
Basically a shell to put the equipment inside.
Yeah,
Basically, the pole barn
yeah.
with 4 sides on it.
With a fourth side on it.
Yeah.
And, it's 100% better than putting it outside.
Right.
And except for the dead of winter, you get everything you need out of it.
And you're still plugging the trucks inside that shell. So
Yeah.
the motors are one.
Things still freeze in there.
It is cold in there. If it's 20, if it's 0 degrees outside, it's probably, pick a number, 10, 15 inside, above.
It's unheated,
Yeah, but,
enthalpy.
But Scott knows, I talked with Scott a little bit about this the other day, so we were talking about the Vector truck and other things, and he said, some of these things got 75 gallons of hydraulic fluid in them that takes forever to heat up. So if they're not in a warm place, then it takes a long time to get them ready to go to work.
yeah.
So I don't know how many pieces we have like that need to be inside and heated. You know that, I don't.
all of your salt trucks have basically 50 to 100 gallons of hydraulic oil sitting in a tank behind the cab. Like you said, you plug it in, your block's warm.
Right.
Water's warm, engine oil's warm.
But not that.
Right.
But the state yard doesn't have everything heated and covered and, you know, all of those trucks that go out, they're just plugged in next to somebody's shop and go out plow for the state. My dump truck, I plow and it's not in the heated garage at all times.
Yeah, but
Right, you know,
90% of the time though, they're calling you and say, be at our shop at 3 o'clock, so you know you're going.
Yeah.
A lot of our calls are,
Go.
go now. We need it now.
But
And
I guess put the key.
ideally, let's face it, we would like a heated garage for every piece of equipment, so you can go in, start up, if there was an emergency, boom, and go. But that's not gonna get funded.
Right.
I guarantee that it will not pass. You may get it through town meeting, but it won't go through the ballot. So why don't we try to get something, let's get a big step, get them some office, get them a new mechanic bay, get them a couple of
Wash bay.
storage. Right, so we're not washing outside where in a year, or the state might come and crank about that. You get a good mechanic bay, you got a place for the vac truck.
And you can still jam a bunch of stuff in the heated older building.
Right, and then you use that old building for,
Yeah.
it's all heated.
And the wash bay can be utilized too,
That's
for
gonna be
to
heated.
store things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, obviously, you're not
The
gonna
length
use
of-
the
the length
mechanics
of the-
bay, but
The length of the wash bay, you could probably fit
You put that Vector truck in there
the
plus.
vac truck and probably another, I don't know how big, I don't know how the length of it is, so I'm not gonna get, but you could certainly fit the vac truck and another truck in there. What the other truck would be,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But
Right.
the vac truck should have its dedicated spot, not worried about pulling out so they can wash vehicles and things freezing up
Yeah.
and sitting there during the yard. But everybody here is in agreement. It'd be great to have that $20 million building, all heated, boom, nothing's gonna rot, and the whole bit. It's not gonna get funded. So why screw around and waste the $225,000 that we're working on now, never mind whatever your committee spent last time. We're just peeing a lot of money away in this town doing studies. And why vote for something that's not gonna have a big chance of getting passed?
So what is your thought, David?
Well, I'd like to review these couple of plans, and then us as a group decide what we should recommend. The selectmen can go with any one, even if we don't recommend it. They could go with the 22 if they choose.
Right, well, I'm sure they won't.
You know, I think we can do a pretty good job with like 10 to 12 million.
Right.
If we gotta cut, you know, I know they threw some rough numbers, but obviously the generator's not gonna be that big.
He said 13 to 14, or 14 to 15.
Yeah. And
14
then
to 15 just had one additional bank.
14 to 15 had 2 storage bays. They all have offices and the complete office setup, the wash bay and the mechanics
Do
bay.
you have those pictures, Jimmy?
But
That
I'll
was
go
on the
back
high
what I
side.
asked him. When it was going in, we'll call it their favor, we're only saving
Yeah.
$300,000
For
to take
X
out
amount
the
of
whole
square
thing.
feet, yeah.
Now, it's $1 million to add another bay. We're not
Yeah.
asking for anything special in that bay.
Right.
Yeah,
You
And
know,
the
like
span
in
of the steel had to have been a lot more going the opposite way.
yeah,
It's
it's
the pitch,
everything,
so it should have been
percentages
opposite.
went way up, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
Well,
then,
it's also heated space, and there was, I think with the mechanics bays, remember there was mezzanine, there was
Yeah.
storage
Right,
bins, there
right.
was extra, extra gantry stuff.
but now we're just asking for another bay. I don't get the $1 million, and his thing about the crane is swinging, and the bulldozer is
Well,
going.
6 hours, 8 hours, well, it shouldn't be, it should be 8 hours for 2 weeks, not 3 weeks.
Right.
Right.
And if you're going by the square foot,
Well, that's why,
it's a square foot, not, you can't go both ways.
Yeah.
You know, so,
that's why I came up with just under 10 for, at 650 kind of Boxford's cost.
and I'm sure, like, he even admitted, these aren't real hard numbers.
Yeah.
And if he had the time
Yeah.
to put into these hard numbers, maybe we'd have a better idea of what we're talking about.
So maybe those 2 storage units, they don't have any stone, any concrete, it's just steel to the ground, not a 4-foot concrete wall. Maybe cut some costs there.
On which?
I think the original building had 4-foot concrete around the
Right.
whole thing. Maybe we can save some if it's steel all the way to the ground.
Well, personally, I'd rather see the concrete because I
Yeah.
know somebody's gonna run the bucket through a steel wall or something.
Yeah.
So, and even just leaning tires and whatnot against it.
And your salt
We
running off.
don't wanna screw
Oh, so,
ourselves big time. You know, it's like putting up a salt shed. with a canvas.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna keep replacing the canvas.
Right, there are some things that it is not worth saving a couple $100,000,
And
in my
even like the
opinion.
plywood wall, if you only have a foot of concrete on the bottom,
Yeah, that's a
that's
joke.
gonna get destroyed.
That's a joke.
So we can't.
Do it right and-
We can't be foolish about
Right,
it.
right.
But I'd like to try to go and pass,
Yeah.
recommend something that might pass.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all.
And they get out of the
Okay.
trailers and whatever, we still have heated space in that old garage. A
Right.
few of the pieces of
Okay,
equipment can't fit in there.
here's the two proposals. Everybody remembers what the full boat looked like.
Basically just chop
This
it
is,
off.
this
that-
top one is
that
the
whole
two
back.
storage bays, mechanics bay, wash bay, offices.
And that's the new version,
That's the new version.
That's
the one-
option
That's
4.
the $14 to $15 million version.
Okay.
This one is switch?
Option 4, that's
This is,
the
this is the, I don't want to go by numbers. This is the $14 to $15 million version. Two storage bays, mechanics, wash, office.
But those are double storage bays, right?
What do you mean by double?
Two storage bays, that's what I just said.
Two giant, yeah.
Too wide, but they're too deep also.
Two different
Right.
doors,
So, I
two
mean,
different garage
Two-
doors.
It's the width of those bays, they're all the same width.
Two
Yeah.
different garage doors.
Yeah.
Right, the drive-through bays.
Okay. And then the other one is the same thing, but it's only got one bay.
One storage bay. This is the 13 to $14 million version.
Okay. And then the $20 million one had a back on
The
it.
the $20 million one was everything. It had the back on it,
The
Top,
19.6.
Where's
So-
the mechanics room?
right here.
It's-
And that's the same.
Right next to the
Yeah.
wash bay. It's the same, they're the same in all of them.
And that's even in the 20 million, that was the same.
Correct.
So,
And you can get how many trucks in that mechanics bay? Is that one?
what do you
One.
mean, the,
Mechanics bay, you can get one big truck.
That's got the big lift and the
Yeah,
overhead.
you could get the vac truck in there and anything smaller than a vac truck.
So-
That truck can go in here as well, right?
you
Yes,
can live in
Vac
there?
truck will fit anywhere.
I appreciate we're trying to put together something that can pass, but I really would want to hear from the folks who have to use this every day to.
We don't have that luxury.
To provide we do have
We
a
have
luxury.
one.
Well,
To provide
yes.
the services from this town that we're looking to continue to get. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this hybrid approach?
Don't be shy.
I'm gonna say that we put a lot of time and conversation in this, and now it's time for you folks, the ones that are paying for this, to decide. What I say really doesn't matter.
It does matter, Scott. What he's asking you is, how are you gonna be able, will you be able to function? What's it gonna do? I mean, obviously, it's better than what you've got now, right?
Yeah.
But, and if you could, you'd like a $50 million building, right? We know that's not gonna happen. Just because you're not paying taxes, doesn't mean we don't value your opinion here.
I understand that. But what I want and suggest, I guess, it's up to this committee. I've said it, we're arguing over now, or discussing, well, the Mass Highway leaves their trucks outside, it's fine. You know what, if that's the way people feel, leave them outside.
I'm not saying we should leave them outside. Those are kind of throwaway trucks.
But it's
But
just.
is this, well, let's look at these two options we're looking at right now,
Something is better than nothing, I guess.
okay?
But-
And is the second bay gonna make a huge difference to you?
I guess it depends if the pole barn stays or goes. I guess there's a lot of variables with this.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I still think
I
that the pole
would,
barn can't
how
that be
much,
moved.
how much storage, how much
It probably
room
costs
is there in the pole
reconstruct a
barn?
new one with-
What?
It's
Huh?
limited.
Yeah.
How many vehicles how much stuff can you put into the pole barn?
Right now, there's a loader, the chipper hooked to the dump truck, the chipper truck,
Back.
the Vector truck, the Kubota, the generator, the light tower. There's a lot of equipment in there besides the drivable stuff. The mini excavator's in there.
What,
So in their drawings, they show that the one bay has the Vector truck and two pickups. And the two bay had, I think, a dump truck. What would you put in, say, the two bay?
Well, it depends, I mean, if the pole barn's gone, you got, it's not only the pole barn, I think there's 4 Connex boxes and a shed down there that are full of
It's
equipment.
gonna go.
You know, mowers, all kinds of off-season stuff,
problem is we don't have
snow blowers, all that
the
stuff.
salt shed
I
is
mean, that was all gonna be in a
right
bigger
around
building, all that
here.
stuff's gonna get cleaned up, so you're not, doesn't look like a shanty town
The
down
salt shed,
there. Never mind the 3 trailers.
pole barn is,
You know, you're still gonna be using the other part, so you're not gonna have your shop and place to store stuff. If we lose the Russell School, which we shouldn't be, you know, it's some kind of a shop for working on, you know, building maintenance stuff. I mean, is that something, is that better than what we have now? Yes. I'm under the, you know, I'm looking at it like,
this is what you want.
we were tasked to find the best thing for the town, not the cheapest thing,
Right.
the best thing.
Right.
Well, but
To
they
me,
go-
that is, you know, you're getting some stuff, but you didn't do a good job.
Access here, or maybe
So you
something.
can't because
You know,
this is.
none of
this
us
is
go to
sewer
the,
plant, so
you know,
really
buying a new truck or something,
doing
and
anything here
I want one
is
with
really
crank
not
windows
good
and
because
rubber
they
floor
can't get
mats.
out of the season, so you gotta
And
get
none of
the
us are
space
gonna
to
build a
the
house with no
garage.
bedrooms.
Right.
So the
We're cutting out
the
the,
salt shed's gonna go.
and you know, if you could get it right down to 10 for all what we are asking for,
If the new
it might make a
salt shed
difference.
goes
I
back
don't really
here.
think it's going to, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting, you talk about the house with no bedrooms, I'm thinking about this.
I don't see why the
I
barn's
need,
gonna
I
go.
need transportation.
You're gonna ask that
So
guy
I'm
right
thinking I'm
there.
gonna go buy a new
Ask
car.
this guy right here.
Well,
We both
you can't
do
afford a new
sides.
car, da-da-da-da-da-da, and the
There's
powers
a-
that be tell me,
There's a
here,
lot of room.
a bicycle is the best
to
we
get
can do for
especially-
you.
dude, You're not talking
And,
48
okay, that'll get
trailers,
me
so.
from place to
I
place,
mean, a
but
semi-dump
it's
truck
not gonna
probably-
make me happy, and it's not gonna,
I mean,
you know.
Okay. That 8 feet.
I'm just looking at it as like-
Get around stuff.
You know, if I was asked to go fix something, well, prime examples, you know, we got something
You know,
going on
the
right now.
biggest thing is
If I'm asked to fix
getting-
something, I'm gonna fix it the best way I can, because as a town employee,
Lighting
I wanna
behind-
make sure that it's fixed
To
the
get
best
it-
way it is, so we're not fixing it again and again and
Yeah.
paying overtime or whatever.
And-
And that's why that's my opinion on the whole building. We spent a lot of time getting it to what we
It's
cut out the
as easy
fat
as-
to begin
There's a
with.
lot of room to get a semi.
I have to go, it is my wife's birthday,
Happy birthday, Jane.
and if I don't go, she's texting me now.
Yeah.
I'm on my way, I've already passed my hard stop, so,
All right,
So,
So my
right
last
before
2
Andy
cents-
leaves, should we take a vote here, or what are we doing?
Yeah, yes. We're
Okay.
gonna- I'm just looking at this. Dave and I talked a little bit about this. We're talking to 2 guys that drive semis, okay? And I honestly don't see, if the salt shed goes back here, why the pole barn is in the way to put a semi in there. Put this is where.
can we talk about the bigger picture, though?
Well, this is important, because if this pole barn can stay, the salt shed's gotta go, I don't disagree with that. But if the pole barn can stay,
Still
there's
put
a-
something new here.
and this is where the building is gonna go,
yeah,
there's a lot of room, there's a lot of storage between the facilities. So, you know, whether it's one or two storage bays may not matter in the long run that much if the pole barn can stay, is what I'm aiming at.
And if those truckers can't get around there, Scott, you know, for a fee, I'll come in and back each one.
Yeah, I can too, because I'm a trucker, and those guys come with 4-axle spread trailers to make the bridge laws and everything else. The trailers are 50-foot long, they have massive trucks with sleeper cabs. They need to pull in and basically go to the wastewater fence to straighten out now enough to back into what we have. So we can debate this all day of who can do what or not. It probably is not gonna work. I just, that's what I'm saying. How can you jockey around that area?
my guts are telling me that we go with the option with the 2 bays. As much as I'd like to see the $20 million thing happen, I don't think it's going to. And I agree with Gary somewhat that I'll be impressed if we get the $15 million one. But my guts are go with the 2 bays, the $14 to $15 million project.
The bays are pretty cheap, according to them, right?
Yeah, according to them.
And hopefully, you'll really look at the cost, and it'll be different. But we got a chance of getting it for 14, 15.
Whatever.
You know, to get it passed.
Yeah.
Because something is better than nothing.
Yeah, and to Jimmy's point, and I've talked about this as well, I asked Scott the other day, if we have a building that's not heated, will that help us? And it sounds like we've got a bunch of stuff in unheated buildings right now, so at least we can put it all together closer in a nicer situation. So again, so I don't know if you want me to make a motion to accept that or what. If you do,
What?
so moved.
You wanna do a vote on who wants to go with what, or what? How we
Well-
do this? You're the chair.
I only direct.
All right, direct.
That's all I
So
do here.
the
That's
way
all
it
the
works-
chairman's
the
job
way it
is to
works is
direct.
somebody makes a motion.
It's up to the committee's job to make the decision, not
Somebody
the chairman.
seconds or not, so,
Randy, what is your motion and what, that's the
Yeah, Make
$15 million?
make your motion.
yeah, so I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend the option with the 2 bays, which is, that's
14 to
told to
15.
us $14 to $15 million. That we try to, we put that forth to the select board this evening.
Okay, and the other option was 1 bay, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and all of these will be presented to the select board tonight. And this is it'll go forward as this is what the committee recommends. It'll be up to the select board to either agree with us or override us.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've beaten this up pretty good. Any other discussion on this one? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion for the 2 storage bay, 14 to 15 million, say aye.
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 Any opposed? 1, 2. Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 3, wait a minute. 3, 6 to 2. Yes.
And you guys
you vote
think
for
the
it?
whole,
But yeah,
you guys think the whole 20 million?
Well, we keep saying 20 million,
Well,
it's
yeah.
19.6, and then there's
22.
some,
They're
so
saying
it
it's
wind
gonna
up
be less.
18.
Well, the biggest-
Well,
What's a little bit.
The biggest
What's a
building
little
that they
bit
presented.
confusing to me at
I
the
think
last,
it's money
Dollars
after,
per square inch
it's
is.
spending good money after bad.
it's a bit confusing to me at the last meeting that we had, because I thought I specifically asked Greg that the 19.65 is an all-inclusive cost.
And we keep hearing 22, I didn't,
And today he
Yeah.
came up with it was
6.5.
19.65 was the building cost, and then you add the soft cost on top of that.
right.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what we had in our
Right.
presentation, so I
No,
think
yeah, I
there's
don't-
just a disconnect there.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is, this is a little bit confusing to me.
Well, we have to get that clarified. I mean, but if I recall from that was the bottom line.
Yes.
Was
That was all
19,
in.
was 19.75 at
And
the
he
time,
kept
and now
saying
it's
with
drifted down to
With the
19.65.
discounts, the way the bids came in on the other one, it'd be down to, he was talking down around 18.
Well, it sounded like, yeah, my
It
truck
sounded like it was drifting
like
down.
17.
I really gotta go.
Right.
or-
Okay.
So, anyway, no, I appreciate you guys' time, and I don't mean to rush out on the crux of it, and of course, it always comes down to these types of things.
The wrath of us is much less than the wrath
Oh,
of your
God.
wife.
This will be good.
Don't forget, you're on tape, so be careful.
Happy birthday, honey. See you later.
Depending what the select board decides tonight, we want to set a meeting for 2 weeks from tonight, that's before town meeting and before, well, if this, yeah, because we're still gonna have the open house, open house is still on for the 26th.
Well, if they're
Well,
not putting
I-
the thing forward,
yeah,
What?
I
They're
would
not-
say, open house tentative on what the select board
I
decides to
agree,
do.
if the select board decide not to put anything on the warrant,
We're not having an open
then there's no
house.
sense in having the open house. But if something, if one of the proposals indeed goes on the warrant, then we should still have the open house. And we were running up, well, the 16th is the Wednesday before Easter. That would be the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm gone the 21st of April through town meeting.
Okay, so you're not gonna be here for
You're
town
not
meeting?
dying?
I got something I've been planning for over a year,
Okay,
Undetainable?
okay. So,
so do whatever, but
if the select board decides to put it on the warrant, is the 16th available for everybody else as far as you know?
I'll be here for that, yeah.
yeah, I've got it down here, because
Okay.
we had one to talk about that to begin with.
I don't think
Okay.
I'll be here, but.
April 16th, I already have it in here.
April 16th, yeah.
Phone must have heard you. Put it in.
I think we punched it in last time, Dave, because I think we talked about that for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have nothing else. 6:45 tonight, if you're interested, either here in person or you can call into the Zoom link.
We need to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yeah.
Yes,
Motion
sir.
to adjourn.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.